Good afternoon. I'm Jo Watt. I'm the clerk for this afternoon's meeting of SACRE. And on behalf of the chairman, I'd like to welcome you all to this remote virtual meeting. The meeting will be chaired by Reverend David Taylor, representing Group A, which is Other Faiths. The other members of the committee are Councillors Lynn Doherty, Billy Drummond, Tony Linden and David Marsh, all representing Group D, elected members of West Berkshire Council, Val Boland, Mary Stagg, Maria Pratico and Robin Sharples representing Group B, Church of England, Mubashir Mushtaq and Rabbi Solomons representing Group A. I'm not sure if Rabbi Solomons is with us today. Other Faiths, and Claire Hawkins, Amanda Bedding and Chris Ward, who are representing teaching unions. We also have a number of guests with us this afternoon. We have Reverend Julie Howes, welcome, Dilip Dadwar, welcome, and Rosanna Looker from Willink School. As I said, Donna Fox will be joining us, Chairman, slightly later. I'm assisted by Linda Pye, who will be the Zoom host of the meeting and assisting the Chairman as I'm about to describe. I'll just start with a couple of reminders to the members of SACRE. This meeting is being webcast and recorded. Any confidential discussions will not, however, be webcast. So we may find ourselves in a position where we need to move to part 2, which is confidential, and that part of the meeting will not be webcast. Could all participants make a note of the meeting number and participant number? This will be of assistance if you experience any technical difficulties. As all of you will, except the chairman, are currently muted, please remember to unmute yourself when you wish to speak and raise your hand so the chairman and I can see that you wish to speak. Any voting necessary, we'll ask for a show of hands, a physical show of hands, because there's not too many of us will be able to see that quite easily. And if there's any need to adjourn the meeting at any point, the chairman will adjourn and advise the committee of the revised time and date of the meeting. If it's necessary to have a short adjournment, then we'll just rejoin the same meeting, but we're not expecting any need to adjourn. Thank you. I'll hand over to the chairman.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Formally, lovely to be together again. Thank you very much for coming. I will ask Jo if we have any apologies, first of all.
I've not received any apologies, Chairman, no.
Okay, so 1 or 2 people, as we know, joining a little bit late today. I'd like to start this meeting with a brief reflection, and my reflection today is that I've had a very schooly day. I started at 8 o'clock in the morning for a head teacher's breakfast here in Thatcham and the church leaders. Then I've been into Kennet School to run a lunchtime club, and now I'm here. So it's a very schooly day for me today. And I know many of us go into schools on a regular basis, but my reflection today is just how hard teachers work. So some people at our head teacher's breakfast were due to come because issues came up at school at 8 o'clock in the morning that they had to deal with. Our own Claire Hawkins here is late to the meeting, not because she's lazy, but because she's a teacher and she's working really hard. Supporting in our particular role. So we'll just have a moment of silence, and you may want to pray if you're a praying person for teachers that you know, or just to reflect on that and to think about a teacher that you know. Okay, thank you. So then we move to item 2. Which is about membership. The first thing is that Rachel Manley, who was our local authority advisor, has decided to retire from SACRE She's done that partly because she, again, is a very busy head teacher, but also because she felt that there wasn't really enough of a role as the local authority advisor. That was really covered by other people in this group. So my proposal to you would be that we don't appoint a new LA advisor unless anyone wants to give a reason why we need one. But we could put the monies that we have put aside for that role into other parts of our budget. So I don't know whether anybody wants to comment on that.
I think I agree. I think based on the experience and the fact she left for that very reason, it kind of makes sense not to appoint. Yeah.
I mean, we've got David Rees anyway.
Indeed, we've got David. When I came on to Sacre, we had an LA advisor. I'm not quite sure why. Nothing against the people involved, but it doesn't really seem to have been a functioning role. And we obviously do have an excellent clerk in Janet normally and Joe today. So with your agreement, I think we will not reappoint then that role and just say thank you to Rachel. Don't know, do you think we need to vote on that, Joe?
I just want to say before you go any further, I think it's pretty sensible for me to check the constitution of Sacre to see, because arguably there needs to be some input from the local authority over and above the membership of Sacre, obviously. So I just need to check the constitution on that, but I can obviously take away your views to appoint or not appoint. But it may not be a decision for Sacre to make. But okay. Robin's got his hand up. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of put my hand up fairly quickly.
Sorry, Robin.
I think there's a slight danger, David, in not having an advisor from the LA who actually isn't an interested party, if that makes any sense. I'm not gainsaying anything, but there are issues in schools that arise, and I'm wondering if Donna is going to be a regular attendee at this meeting, because that wasn't the case before Donna arrived. We never had Elaine Ricks come, for instance, really, with any consistency. So it might be that Donna can fulfill that role. And I wonder if Sacre itself, if you like, failed to exploit what the LA advisor could contribute in terms of school leadership issues, general curriculum issues and things. So I just sort of air a note of caution that the committee might like to consider.
I mean, I have to say I agree with Robin. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but from a clerk's point of view, clerking the meetings is quite separate to obviously offering any advice on behalf of the local authority. And I think from meetings I've attended with Donna in attendance, she has added that extra element of local authority experience and direct school experience. So again, I will check the constitution in terms of whether you need an LA advisor, but I can certainly see there are more benefits than not.
Oh, well, if that was a solution, that would be a wonderful solution. I'm sure we'd all agree, because when Donna's attended this meeting, she's been tremendously helpful. We do realise she's a very busy lady, and she's been to several, but I think she's missed the last several. So that just depends really whether she can, I suppose, commit to being regularly part of us. Welcome, Lynn, by the way. Thank you for coming.
I think what Donna has been doing is what the LA rep should have been doing.
Okay.
And I think the role has not been really clarified prior. And I think with Keith and Rachel, it's been allowed to flow a little bit.
I must admit, I've never understood it. Yeah. So, okay, that's really helpful. So, Joe, to go away and look at the constitutional issue. Robin, do you want to talk to Donna? Who's best to talk to Donna? I mean, I can obviously, but just wonder whether you wanted to do that.
I'm happy to contact Donna if that would be helpful.
I think it really would.
Can as well, because we have had this discussion, David, amongst us as a democratic services team as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you. 2.2. So we have been talking about trying to broaden our membership in terms of the faiths that are represented here. And it's lovely to have Dilip today. Thank you so much, Dilip. Dilip, just want to say briefly where you're from? Oh, you've put yourself on mute.
Oh, there you go. That's better now. Sorry. Yes, so I live in Bracknell. I think that I've mentioned this to you as well. I am also a member of the Bracknell Sacre. For a living, I work as a network engineer and try and do what I can in my voluntary times.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. You're obviously experienced in Sacre if you're with Bracknell Forest, and yeah, we'd certainly welcome your help if you're able to give it. So I think you're observing today, aren't you? Just to see
I'm observing today, so I'm going to keep quiet.
See if you could cope with being on 2 Sacres. I don't know how anybody does that, but that would be fab from our point of view.
Fantastic. Well, perhaps I should add that I'm coming in as the Hindu representative, and that's what I do in the Bracknell Sacre as well. So just
yes. Sorry, yes, I should have said that as well.
Sure.
We've also noted our need or desire for a Roman Catholic representative. We don't have anybody. Certainly, I don't have anybody in mind, but I don't know whether anybody has a person to suggest or wants to approach anybody.
Chairman,
Billy.
I might suggest Elizabeth O'Keefe. Elizabeth O'Keefe, she's just come off as been mayor in Newbury, and she's a chair of a local Catholic school in Newbury.
Okay.
And I'll ask her for you.
Elizabeth O'Keefe.
Yep.
Has she been on Sacre before? It rings a vague bell.
I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you. And then we also wondered about a second Jewish rep, recognising that Rabbi Solomon isn't able to join us very often at all. So I don't know whether anyone can help us with that.
David, are you looking for somebody in the Orthodox community?
I don't think it really...
Or it doesn't matter? I mean, there's
no.
Jonathan Romain at Maidenhead Synagogue.
Yes. I mean, it is lovely to have West Berkshire-based people, if at all possible, isn't it? We welcome Dilip today, and just recognising that some faiths are not well represented in West Berkshire. But if there was somebody more local than Maidenhead, I think that would be ideal.
Well, there is Reading.
Yeah.
But that's for the Orthodox community. But
yeah,
Jonathan Romain covers the whole of the Thames Valley anyway. So as such, I know he's quite a busy person outside running his. It is that is a possibility, but there's also the Orthodox Synagogue, Central Reading. So I don't know the contacts there, but if you want something a bit more local, then that's what you got. It's in Reading Borough.
Yeah, which is where Zvi Solomon's comes from, that area, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's in Reading. Yeah.
Yeah.
Progressive wing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we may need to leave that one open then. It's normally best, isn't it, when people know of people personally and are able to contact them. Then 2.3, welcome to Rosanna today for her first meeting. Rosanna, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, I'm Rosanna Looker, and I'm an RE specialist and finishing my NQT year off this year at the Willink School. I previously taught RE in London for a few years prior to coming here. So, and I live in Reading, but obviously working here in West Berkshire.
Great. Well, welcome to you, and thanks for giving the time to come and observe today. And again, like Dilip, you know, if you feel after this meeting that you'd like to be a part of us, then you can let us know. It's great to have teaching staff on the committee. And just to say that Chris, Chris, you'd probably like to speak for yourself, how your role has changed a little bit.
Yes, so I was originally on as a teaching member, started teaching at the Willink in September, but I also had a role in learning support. I found that the teaching really wasn't working for me much as I love the subject, but I've been given a role as an inclusion mentor, so sort of semi-pastoral as well as learning support role, which I'm loving. So I'm still committed to the Willink School and still have very strong interest in RE.
Fabulous, thank you very much. And then Julie, we had a bit of a chat, Julie and I, about whether Julie would come on as a member, but recognising that she's only here for a little while. Do you want to say about that, Julie?
Yeah, so hi everybody. So I'm in a second year of curacy, of a 3-year curacy. So I only have approximately 1 year to go. And so my background is health and safety. But before I went into health and safety, I actually trained at Exeter University as an RE teacher in secondary school. So I've always felt as if I've had a connection to teaching, and I feel quite passionate about children's development. And I thought this would be a really good opportunity for me to get to know more about the local sort of authority and also the local schools and that sort of thing, which is an area of which I have, you know, as personal development. But if everybody's happy for me to stay as an observer, I will be happy to come and support, you know, as best I can, and get involved if you want me to, as little or as much as you want me to.
Never say anything like that. No, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. It's lovely to have you for as long as you're here.
Okay.
All right, I think that's everything on membership, unless I've missed anything, anybody. Right. Item 3, minutes of the last meeting. Hopefully you've all had the minutes and have been able to look at them. Are you willing to accept the minutes of the previous meeting as an accurate record of the meeting? Please nod or otherwise, or you can put your hand up if you like. Yes. Thank you very much. So as chairman, I propose to accept the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of February 2021. Does that find a seconder? It says here. Thank you, Billy. So I will now put that to the vote, or Joe will.
Yeah, that's okay, Chairman. Thank you. Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Chairman.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Right, item 4. Are there any matters arising from the minutes that are not covered below? I'm just working down my agenda now. I don't think there are. I don't think there are from my point of view either. So that's item 5. Item 6 is about the overview. The last couple of years, I've started just to produce a 1-page overview of SACRE, really for the benefit of those who are coming onto the committee. I just remember when I first came onto this committee, it seemed like a foreign language at the start. And so I thought it might just be helpful for everybody to have an updated document that explains what we do. And this year I've just updated it. I'll tell you how I've updated it when I can find it. There we go. So for those of you who were involved in the production of the last agreed syllabus, it may come as a bit of a scary prospect to realise that we're quite soon going to be working on the new agreed syllabus to come out in 2023. So next year certainly will be time for us to start working on that. And one or two other things down there that I don't need to comment on, but you can see. And then just the budget at the end, to note on the budget at the end that we've had that £5,000 extra made available to us for the support of schools in COVID recovery. 2,822 of that remains, and we have to spend that by the end of March 22. So yes, that's the overview. Anybody got any questions or comments on that? It's really to help people to understand what we're about. I'll take that as understood then. Item 7 is a little report back on the Sacre Hub. This is the group of Sacres that we're part of in Berkshire. And we've got this exciting project going on called Real People, Real Faith. We had a launch on the 28th of April of those films. Went really well. Several of us were there. David Rees was there. Val Bolan, you were there as well, weren't you, Val? I didn't count. What were there, about 40 people there or something?
I think there was more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's certainly more signed up, but we always know a couple drop out at the end.
Thank you, David. So we watched some of the films that we've produced. There were some representatives of the different faiths there to comment, which was helpful. And all of those films are now available on the website of NATRE, which is NATRE, the National Association of Teachers of Religious Education. So that's all there. If you've not seen any of them, we'd like to just go to their website and you can see them. And we don't want to leave it there. David Rees in particular has got ideas as to how to build on that with support materials, and this will come up in the budget later. So, David, I don't know whether you want to say anything about that.
Yep, happy to. Thank you, Chair. I mean, first of all, they are hosted on the NATRE website, but you have to go when you go into NATRE, it's in the About Us section, and then there's a bit on projects, and it's all there, and they've all been lined up, and the notes are there as well. So it's a really nice place where everything's together. Obviously, what we'd like to do now is work on extending these, because what there's a lot of talk about is getting diversity within faith traditions, religions, and worldviews. So we have a Reformed synagogue one, so we would need to look for an Orthodox. We have quite a bit of diversity that we can still do. So, and we're also lucky within the Pan Berkshire Hub to have access to quite a lot of these communities. So I think the idea is that we'd like to make some more. When it comes to support, and we'll come to this later with the budget, building on the clips that we've got and linking those to support documents that will help teachers use these in the classroom. So linking them to content within the syllabus and so on would help them a little further, and that's one of the things that we'd look to do with teacher help.
So it really is very exciting. It's been exciting to be involved in it, and I hope that you can all see at least some of them at some point. David, is there anything else that came from the hub? I wasn't at the last meeting, I think you were, but anything we should know about?
I know Anne is planning to try and run another one. She sent out either the 7th or 14th of June. Unfortunately, I can only do one of those, and it's the same day as Wokingham Sacre actually meet, so it's unlikely they'll be able to go. But I'll catch up with Anne anyway. Basically, everything was on hold until we managed to get these out there, and there was quite a bit of a process to get NATRE to host them and get it released. So everything really was leading up to being ready for the launch, and fantastically it was about a week before. So after that, I think Anne's just taken a bit of a sigh of relief that that's done before we start to go on to the next bit. One thing she is going to talk to Sacre chairs about is the commitment, because they didn't spend everything, and therefore she might be considering that the Sacres will fund a little bit less than usual. Although, as we know, if we have a Sacre budget to spend, if we did put it into the hub, then the hub can look after that and it won't get lost. So there's a couple of things to consider there.
By the way, when we say Anne, we mean Anne Andrews. She works for the Diocese of Oxford and she chairs the hub for us really, really well. We owe a great deal to Anne for that. Thank you. Okay, so 8 on schools. We can do some of this in this part of the meeting. Joe, I don't know whether Janet's given you any exam results to report on for us.
Not that I've seen, Chairman. If I have got anything, I'll send it round after the meeting.
Okay, lovely, thank you. 8.2 then we will do later, or do I need to ask that formally?
Yeah, we'll need to take it, because of the nature of the discussion in item 8, we'll need to take a vote to move that to part 2 and hold it at the end of the meeting. It makes sense to actually have that item at the end of the meeting, because then the live streaming can stop at that point. But given that you want to talk about individual schools potentially in that item, Chairman, I would suggest that you take a vote to move it to part 2 and hold it at the end of the meeting.
Okay, could someone propose that for us, please? Thank you, Tony. Could someone to second? Thank you, Val. And those in favour of moving that to the end of the meeting? I think that's all. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. That's that the press and public leave the room in accordance with schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, because you'll be talking about a particular organisation or person.
Okay, thank you. So we can go to item 8.3, recovery support. Now, oh, Claire, right on cue, Claire. That's amazing. Afternoon, Claire. Are you there yet?
Yes, thank you. I didn't get the Zoom link. David had to forward it to me.
Ah, well, that could explain why you're named as David Rees as well.
Yes.
Oh.
as lovely as David is, I don't think we look alike.
Yeah, you're a hell of a lot better than me.
Claire, you've arrived at precisely the right moment when we've just got to your item on the agenda.
Is it my magic?
Which, well, some of us call it the sovereignty of God, but never mind. So would you like to talk to us, Claire, about recovery support in Key Stage 4, Key Stage 5?
Yes, so we had, sorry, I'm trying to find my notepad now. We joined the secondary meeting. We joined the secondary network meeting. And the one thing that everybody asked for was time, which would be lovely to be able to arrange that for the teachers. But I think that's a little bit outside of our remit. But when we spoke through it, sorry. When we went through, there was a couple of things that people asked for. So like training sessions with people of the faith communities to get that direct link with the faith communities. That was one thing. So a lot of it was around CPD training. I'm trying to find my bits and pieces. Sorry. I am normally more organised than this. I do apologise.
Sorry, it was my fault for dropping you immediately you came to the meeting.
No, it's fine. So training on religions, particularly Islam, Buddhism and Judaism, which I think between us and between our contacts, we can handle. We proposed it as a Zoom meeting, but then we could record it and make it available for departments, and departments could share them with students, share them at meetings and things. So it becomes a resource that isn't just a one-off, that it could be used. They asked if we could arrange specialist training for A-level teaching. So not exam board specific, but the building on those A-level skills. How do we prep from that jump from year 11 to year 12? Something which I thought was very interesting. And they've asked for care packages too. They felt very left out that the primary lot got a care, well, nearly have a care package. But they would also quite like a care package. Also assemblies. if we could brainstorm with them about how can we make the most out of assemblies, what work can we do. And then they asked for a few bits, exam board specific things. So an AQA answer looks like this, which is a bit more specialist than we would like, but we can equally point them in the right direction of people and places. And then finally, virtual tours, but I think the new videos done by the hub and stuff kind of tick that box anyway.
I mean, that sounds like an awful lot. It's quite a long list, doesn't it? What's our role here as Sacre? What can we do as Sacre to help this?
So I thought from that, the things that we can do straight away is the training on the faiths. That's something that we can set up after half term, after centre assessed grades, because I never want to see an exam paper ever again. But once that's out of the way, we can, something else is always going to crop up, but we can breathe a little bit more once that's in, and gained time and things. So when year 11 and year 13 leave. So I think the training on religions is something that we could do straight away. Equally, the care packages. I don't mind explaining the care packages now, but I didn't know if it was coming on later.
Yeah, go on.
So I've got the books. The books have arrived. They're currently in the humanities office at Garth, which the humanities team love me at the minute because there's just these boxes. So I'm working with Janet at the minute just to get like envelopes and things and just work out the logistics of, because I am happy to box them and address them, and then what are the logistics of posting them out.
When you say, just tell people what the books are, just for those.
Oh, sorry. The books are, it's right here. Making every RE lesson count. So it's written by 2 RE teachers. It is very much for RE. It's not just secondary. It's not just primary. It's thinking about what do we teach in RE and why do we teach it in that way. And it looks at questioning and kind of how we teach things. Really, really invaluable book. Really good timing for it coming out. So we've bought a copy for every primary RE lead throughout West Berkshire. So I think we've ordered 74. I've got currently in the humanities office. And so part of the plan was, because David and I have been done so you're an RE lead training for primary leads. We wanted to give them something, to actually physically give them something. And although attendance is good at these, when you compare it to the 74 primaries, attendance isn't where we'd want it to be. So we thought we could coax them in and bribe them basically with gifts. And so in the packages, I was hoping to put things like a couple of sweets in, sticky notes, board pen or 2. It's coming to the end of summer, those things go missing. And so my hope was to post them out after half term, so that teachers had that gained time, that summer term, to read it and reflect on it ahead of making changes for September.
Sounds great. Has anyone got any questions to Claire about this?
Sorry, Tony. Emma, could I just ask that, is this the COVID recovery money? I just wanted to, for anyone new to the, this is what, the £5,000? Mm-hmm. Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, so is this the amount, Claire, following on for what Joe was going to say, that we need to find what we're going to spend the rest of the money by March, or is it the existing money you've got?
The existing money we've got.
So with this, going back on it, are you looking for additional monies, or is it something else, either you or David, to determine what we need to spend by March, or are we suggesting something else?
I didn't realise there was the deadline of March when we last spoke.
Yeah, it was before you arrived to the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We've been given the end of March
Okay.
next year to spend the extra money. So no, David Rees will speak a little bit later on about the ideas for spending the rest of it actually, but we've been spending the first bit, as it were. Claire, bearing in mind that we haven't got another SACRE meeting for nearly 6 months, is there anything else that you need from us? I mean, that sounds like quite a lot you're taking forward there. Is there anything else you need from us?
I may put out a plea, so please keep an eye out for an email from me. Also, if you know of anyone, so I know that we've got the wonderful Berkshire, but if you know anyone within the Buddhist or Jewish communities, I know a lecturer on Buddhism, but I think it'd be nicer to hear from someone within the faith community, and I think it's important to hear, you know, that's what we do. We're not, I know we're SACRE and we're RE, but we're a bit different, and we're a bit away from the classroom, and we're that bridge between the two. And so I think it'd be nicer to have a member of that faith community.
Yes, I know somebody in Reading who I think would do nice to, yeah. I'll let you know.
Thank you. And then if you're happy for me to go ahead with the secondary care packages.
Just in case people think that's a nice little bottle of water and a Kit Kat, just tell them what is that?
So it'll be the book. It'll be a list of resources. It will also contain kind of signposting to us and the SACRE, and there will still be things like sticky notes and sweets in it as well. I will sneak those things in.
Well, I'm sure we're just all very grateful to you for doing that, Claire. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Right, over to David for a little report on the networks he's been running.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Couple of things to talk about. I'll start actually with the secondary, because that follows on from what Claire was saying. We both went to that. But that was really well attended. And Winnie, who runs those, sends around some really detailed minutes. But just to give you an idea of some of the key points to discuss, this is on the 24th of March. We talked about the positives from remote learning, and of course some of the difficulties from there as well. The teacher assessment grades that Claire alluded to, which obviously are just, well, they're so significant, and the buck really does stop with a member of staff. So it's a real pressure thing. I mean, there's always pressure, as we know, but the pressure on doing these, I think, is greater than perhaps we've had in the past. Strategies for effective recovery of learning. So looking to see how students can hopefully top up what they missed by being in school. Certainly, I know from my own experience of friends with teenage children did not do a great deal while they were off. Certainly didn't do as much as they would have done had somebody been keeping a beady eye on them. So yes, there was a lot of talk there about how to try and catch up so that they weren't missing too much or going to be penalised eventually when exams start, which we've heard today is going to happen next year. They're going to be back in full exams. Talking about year 11 and 13, as Claire said, so how is the process working? Moderation, so we used to do consensus moderation in the past where we joined together with other schools and we marked each other's work to see if we were marking to the right sort of standard. And this was really important, particularly if, like myself, you were in a department of one, and so you were comfortable in your own marking, but you really needed someone else to bounce them off. So I think there was a little bit more talk that will happen in the next meeting about that. Claire, do jump in if I'm wrong on anything, won't you? Also, we talked a little bit about SACRE, about the support that was on offer for them, and asked again for what sort of things they might like. And Claire's gone through those. And next meeting, 22nd of June, which is a Teams meeting, and I'll be going along to that as well. So it's really positive. This is a group of people who really know their stuff. I mean, I was really, really impressed. I've been in a room with many RE secondary leads, and all of them were really passionate. It was just an excellent meeting to go to, and so important to feed that back to you, that they are aware of Sacre and they are looking to reach out with the tiny amount of time that they have. So anything we can do, like those care packages, will, I know, be gratefully received. And that book really is an essential book. It's something that's really specific about improving the teaching of RE, and we haven't really had a book like that for quite some time. So I think that's a really great gesture to provide that. So when it comes to primary, we run the primary ones every half term now, and the big focus on this one obviously was the Real People, Real Faith launch, because although the launch had happened the week before, we're aware that not everyone would go. So we made sure we went through that again, and we looked at some clips, but we looked at some different ones. We looked at the Judaism ones. And what I did with that, I showed them the clips, and then I linked it to content and activities, so how they could actually use the clips in the classroom, what content they could link it to. And I think it's that sort of thing we want to do with some of the excess money, which we'll talk about later on, because that will really help teachers, particularly non-specialists, know how these clips can be fitted in to what they're teaching, and therefore that increases their likelihood of them being used, because the last thing we want is a fabulous resource that people don't use. So we talked a lot about that. That took up most of the meeting. We also linked to a Shavuot workshop from Judaism that I sort of co-ran at a Wiltshire RE conference. And Shavuot is a festival that I haven't really taught much of before, but it's actually quite an important one. And I think there's this idea of substantive knowledge, which means what do we actually teach? What's the content? There's the Ofsted document that's come out this week, which is talking about trying to make sure we teach the right sort of content, so that we don't just go for the fluffy sort of RE, we go for RE that's really powerful, challenging, and going to give them the sort of knowledge they need. And the big thing they're talking about, of course, with that is lived experience, and that's what our video clips are all about. So we've been nicely ahead of the game on that. Other things I always try to do in these is link to other resources that are out there that they may not be able to find. So I found some really nice Sikhi infographics from Sikhism, as it was called. We call it Sikhi now. There's also a new CBeebies series of clips called What's on Your Head, which is dealing with 10 different people and the hats that they wear. 4 of those were to do with religion and worldviews. And so, yeah, and Humanists UK. So the final thing I always do, of course, is ask them what they would like again from us. And the things that they're always talking about, very similar to what Claire said, access to people from religion and worldview communities, the virtual places of worship. So some people said, we've got these lovely clips, but maybe next time, if we're doing some, they could have had an artifact as well that they'd be able to show, well, this is something that I use, this is what it means, this is how it links to this particular festival, this is what I do with it in my daily life. And also people said, could we just have them take us a trip round this place of worship so we can see, while we're not able to go in there, we could have had something that's a resource that's easy to be used in the classroom. So that's what we've been through in those 2. Next meeting with primary is 29th of June. As I say, you're always welcome to come along. This week I actually had contact details from 2 new people. So I forwarded those off to Janet as well, because they now go on the circulation list, and we're always looking to try and keep these lists updated with the actual RE person. So that's really positive to get 2 new people sign up.
Thank you very much, David. Quite a lot of our budget goes into what David does for us, so we're so grateful to him for all that work and expertise and everything that he brings to that. So that leads nicely in what David was just saying there, leads nicely into 8.5, because while it's nice to have another couple of RE leads that we're in touch with, I think, as Claire said earlier, there are about 70 of these people in West Berkshire, and we're always aware that there are those with whom we're not in touch at all. And the concerning thing about that, of course, is that quite a few RE leads in primary schools are not specialists and potentially don't have the support that we dearly would love them to have. So it's a question, really, this one. I've put a few ideas there as to what could be done, but I just wonder whether we could bat around a few ideas between us about how we could contact more RE leads in primary schools. The secondary is all covered, but it's really those primaries that we're not in touch with. What could we do there more than we are doing?
One thing that I thought of with the care packages, which it is a logistic thing, and this is me actually admitting that I would need help with something, which is unheard of, is delivering them to the primary schools. And, you know, there's quite a few of us. It wouldn't be many each. And to go and, you know, I'll get my map skills out, I'd be a geographer for a day, and work out, could we deliver them and just have a chat, even if it's only with the main receptionist. But the main receptionist is normally the heart of the school and knows absolutely everything and no more than anyone else in a school. And so actually getting in there and having a chat. That was just my suggestion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good approach. I mean, for example, my wife works in a school, so I can, you know, share with them through her, you know. So if you put somebody in the family, then, you know, that is one way of doing it. Or, you know, just visiting the school and handing over to the receptionist, you know. Yeah.
It would be amazing to use all our informal and formal contacts for this.
Well, I'd very happy to help with that. I've got a few, because I also have a little mini network that I support as well. So I'd be happy to kind of use the people that I already know from some schools around the area, but also go to other schools as well to support, because I am an RE specialist. My degree is religious studies and theology, so I want to offer my support more to the primary teachers who are leaders but don't have that.
Thank you very much. I think I've gone completely mad because I couldn't actually see who was speaking then. Who were we listening to then? Sorry, I just didn't get it.
Chairman, that was Amanda Bedding.
Oh, Amanda. I'm so sorry, Amanda.
But you have hands raised from Robin Sharples, Councillors Doherty and Councillors Marsh as well.
I'm so okay.
I think Robin was slightly first, then Lynn, then David.
Let's go in that order then.
Thank you. I think there's a prior question here, David, about leadership in primary schools. And we've talked about this before, and Claire's hit the nail on the head, really. In some ways, we can take these round to the schools, and it might be better to give them to the lady in the office or the gentleman in the office rather than anybody else, because there isn't a coherent list for primary schools. Most of the church schools have an RE lead, but even there, in some places, it's very vague. So it's choosing the target in the school. That is the difficulty, and this is where exactly an LA advisor could help us. So maybe I'll have a word with Donna about it when I contact her. I'll bung her an email tomorrow. There are a number of ways to distribute stuff. I'm sorry, Claire, I can't really help you driving round local authority. It might be that's what we have to do.
Sorry, Lynn, yes.
Hello everyone, sorry I'm late to the meeting, and it's nice to meet you all and see some familiar faces as well. There is a primary heads forum and there's a secondary heads forum, and sorry if this has already been said before, it would be probably ideal for a member of this forum to ask for a slot, either the primary heads forum or the secondary heads forum, and go and present. And that would be the best way to get to every school in West Berkshire. That's how we've always done it in the past. I was children and young persons lead for 4 years, so I would recommend going down that route.
Sounds great, thank you. Who's the other person, sorry? Oh, David.
David Marsh and then Mary Stagg.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say, in terms of building closer links with primary schools, I'm a governor of one. I don't know if other people here are governors of primary schools. I think one or two maybe, which might be a useful way in. In my case, it's John Rankin, and I'm a parent there too. And so it's not hard to, I mean, one already has good contacts there. As it happens, I was going to mention, it's just anecdotal stuff really, but listening to David talk about Judaism in particular, that's what they're doing at the moment. And I must say, just because as a consumer, as it were, as a parent and consumer, I think the teaching that my son is getting is absolutely excellent. And it's he's coming home every day with new information about that particular faith, and telling me about it with great enthusiasm. So something's going right. So well done to, and they don't have a head of RE. It's being taught by the class teacher at that school, but being taught very well, I would say. But anyway, I'd be more than happy to develop that link a bit and find out more about the way it's being done, because as I say, I'm experiencing it principally as a parent, although we do occasionally discuss the subject at governors' meetings, of course. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Good to hear. So we've had 3 suggestions. I'm just scratching my head trying to see how to put these together. So there's the idea of going around primary schools and with a nice care package to give to the secretary in the office, and you find out that way who the RE lead is. Then there's Robin, who could talk to Donna Fox about it, and then there's the primary heads forum that Lynn mentioned. I mean, I'd be happy to go to the primary heads forum and just, you know, make that link. That would be an easy thing to do. Robin, just say a bit more about how Lynn could help here. Sorry, how Donna could help here.
I think it would link in with what Lynn was saying, actually, that Donna has access to the heads, and it's the leadership of the school. If we want something structural to bite into the school, it needs to go in either through the chair of governors or through the head teacher. And for RE being a curriculum subject and an operational thing, it really should be going in through the head or the leadership of the school. In secondaries, that is the RE lead. But in primaries, it's usually not, and it would be the head that we need to get to. So I think I'd be talking to Donna about how we could get to that level, and I think Lynn's hit the button as well. So we could do a double whammy. If you go and enjoy the lunch at the Heads Forum, and I talk to Donna. Oh, well, there might be. There always used to be, but it's obviously hampered by COVID. So we could do it both ways round. Save Claire some petrol.
Okay, that sounds great.
There is no lunch, Chairman. I hate to tell you, there is no lunch.
Times are changing, Joe.
It is certainly the best way in, and yeah, Donna will be able to advise and how we get a slot on the agendas at those 2.
Okay, Wonderful. I think, I mean, I don't want to gainsay anything that's been said here, and that's really useful, but is it the case that in the past we have wanted to go not to the head teacher of the primary school, but to the actual member of staff involved, because things get lost in head teachers' inboxes and things like that?
The problem there, David, is that there is no actual member of staff involved. As has already been mentioned, I think, was it David who was saying something about the class teacher is doing the work, and therefore you've got all the class teachers in all the primary schools to shoot at, which just isn't going to work.
So what you're saying is that many head teachers, many schools don't have an RE lead, really?
Not in the way that a secondary school would have an RE lead. No, it just doesn't work like that.
The schools that we've spoke to have, and a primary school is meant to have.
They are meant to have.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always work out in that sort of way. And a lot of the primary schools are quite small. So you've got somebody who's the RE lead and the geography lead and the modern foreign languages lead and runs the football club on Tuesdays. So it's so many different things. And I think talking to Donna would be helpful.
Okay, thank you. Well, if you talk to Donna then, Robin, that would be great.
I will talk to Donna. I will talk to Donna.
And
Mary's got her hand up, David.
Oh, sorry, Mary, I forgot.
I was just going to say, as I work in a primary school, from a practical point of view, we do have an RE lead, and that is her, in fact, we have curriculum teams, so she has a bit of support with it as well. Our school secretary doesn't know who the lead coordinators are for each subject. I often get sent the RE stuff because she knows I go to church and I've got an interest. So, and I have to forward it on. And so if you delivered it to our school office, you could ask for the RE lead, but she'd probably be teaching, because all our teachers teach full time apart from their PPA afternoon. And our school secretary would probably take it in, thank you nicely, and then give it to me. And I would then have to pass it on. And I know that's just our school and some school secretaries, but it's actually not the secretary's role to know who's coordinating each subject in a primary school. That's not really how it works. But there should be a coordinator, but equally, Robin's absolutely right. Every teacher teaches RE, but it's up to the coordinator to make sure that they know what they're teaching and when and how it's being taught, and for them to coordinate the subject.
Thank you, Mary. That's really helpful. Is there anyone else whose hand I haven't seen? Right, lovely. Okay, so I think we know what we're doing there. That's great. Okay, on to the newsletter, David, if we can.
Yes, indeed. I don't know if it's attached, is it? But it did go round to everyone, so I'm hoping that everyone had a chance to have a good old look at it. The newsletter is always a combination, really, of local and national things. And what I try to do with it is make sure that there's going to be some resource element to it. It's going to start with local updates, so to do with the virtual networks which we've been running. Also, another request is always to have details from people if we've not got them, and that is getting through. I am keeping a list now of people that I can directly contact with information. Then we went to news from the Berkshire hub. So obviously I flagged up the event on the 28th and made a big thing about showing which questions from the syllabus were used, which places of worship were also used to, just to give people who may not have heard the heads up on this really good free classroom resource. So as I say, we really want that to be used. After that, it was a question of feeding back from other virtual conferences I'd been to, where I'll always try and pick up things that will be useful to teachers and also disseminate things to yourselves as well. Updates from RE Online, which also tries to find free resources for teachers, but also deals with research to do with RE, and particularly where I'm always nudging them is research that's going to benefit classroom practice, because I think there has been some research which has been lovely for the researcher and of use to no one, and that doesn't interest me at all. So then after that, it's sort of other people who've reached out to Culham St Gabriel's at RE Online and said, oh, did you know we've got this, we've got that, we've got the other. And so through these things, we've been able to advertise things like the Westminster Abbey website, which has got free downloadable resources, Sikh resources, as I mentioned earlier, free downloadable humanist resources, all sorts of things that they might not have the time to actually find themselves. So in the end, it turns out it's 4 pages of A4. It's quite big for a newsletter, but it is every term. Once again, I would say if any of you have anything you'd like to have included, please do let me know. The next one now won't go out till September, but I'm already starting to find things and squirrel them away ready. Yeah, and any comments about the newsletter or anything you'd like to know, please do either email or get in touch or say something now. That would be great.
Well, really great to have the newsletter, I know, and thank you for putting it together, David. Okay, next item is about the budget and action plan for the coming year. And so I'm going to share screen and hopefully you'll be able to see this. Okay, so the usual kind of format. We've got the usual figure available to us, same as last year. And there's this figure that's left over from the funds carried over from 2020 to 21. So it includes some of the usual things plus some new things. The usual thing is the contribution to the hub, our £900 that goes to Wokingham Council and then used from there. And then we've got David, who comes to 3 of our meetings and does quite a lot of preparation in advance, and also runs 3 primary networks, 3 secondary networks, as we've seen. I talked with David about the whole issue of travel expenses now that we're meeting on Zoom. Of course, we're not sure how that's going to pan out going forward. So what I've put there is Zoom license stroke travel expenses as a kind of coverall for that one. Something in recognition of David's work on the newsletter. And we have a NASICA, that's the National Association of Sacrays. We have a membership fee of that. So that's all the kind of normal money, if you like, the annual budget coming to 4840. And then for the COVID recovery funds, this is the extra money we need to spend. I've allocated it here to, well, all of it to David for the work, first of all, for these support materials that he's been talking about for the Real People, Real Faith videos. And then for the 3 extra primary network meetings that David has been running each year and is prepared to run again. So I've asked David if he wouldn't mind kindly withdrawing from the discussion for a moment. But before that, David, is there anything else by way of explanation that you would say?
Absolutely, yes. It looks like it's all going to me, and B1 isn't the case of that. What I said earlier was that we would like to work on support materials, and I'd be very happy to be involved in that, but we would need teacher help and so on. So we thought if we allocated the lion's share of what was left to that, I would almost certainly need Claire's help, and we would need somebody with primary background as well to try and develop these materials. So it would be seen as a bit of a partnership, that we would develop something again that would be classroom ready to go with the videos. So it's not just me.
Yeah. So I guess if any of the, I mean, we've got 1 or 2 primary representatives here. Amanda, I'm really sorry I didn't hear you properly when you were talking earlier, but it sounds like you have great experience.
David, if I could say, actually, Amanda comes to the networks, it'd be great if she'd like to be involved in that, but I don't want to put any pressure on her.
No, indeed. But anyway, there's an opportunity there, isn't there, to get involved, I think. So if we just, I don't know whether anyone's got any questions for David before he just withdraws for a moment on that.
Just to say on the COVID recovery funds, we've got the money for the books that we've already paid for as well. And I'm trying to find the invoice in my emails now, but we've taken that from the COVID recovery funds too.
Would we need the secondary care fund to come from that B1 pot though, wouldn't we? I know it's not as much, but it would probably need to come from there.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I'll continue hunting on my emails.
Any other questions?
Sorry, Chairman, for the purposes of the minutes, so have the care packages for the primaries been taken out of that fund already?
Yeah, so we have bought them and they have been invoiced through the council for the 74 books, I think it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, found it. £607.
Okay, well, if there aren't any more questions, I'll just ask David to withdraw from us for a moment.
Can you stick me in a room, or do I just?
Oh, yeah.
Shall I go away? You could
No,
put me in a room.
I'll put you in the to cool off in the cooler, or whatever they used to call it in Waterloo Road, or
put me in the freezer.
Yeah, put you in the freezer. Oh, interesting. Or perhaps, do you need to do this, Joe? I don't know. I don't seem to have a breakout rooms.
I've put him in as an attendee, so he's not actually on the screen, but I can bring him back in when you've finished.
Oh, you've sacked him. Oh, that's good. All right. Okay, that's fine. So I just wanted to ask David to do that, because so much of the money that we are spending is being spent on what David has to offer and brings. And I'm sure we all recognise David's the great benefit of having him. But is there any comment or question about the budget before we adopt it for this year? Val.
I'd just like to say that since David's been our advisor and working on our behalf, this committee has greatly improved. More people have come forward to help, and we've had much more information. I think it's absolutely essential, and I think, you know, he gets very little in return for the huge amount he's doing over a bigger area. It's not just our SACRE, he's really linking us in with a much larger area. And I've got a bit of feedback at some point from a school saying how helpful and how supported they feel he is. He's very supportive. So I'm definitely want him on board.
Thank you, Val. Billy?
If Val was proposing that, I'm going to second them. Just to put you in a spot, Val.
All right. I didn't know it was going to turn into a formal vote there. Yeah, I certainly find David essential. You know, I chair the committee, but I have limited time to give to it. I used to be an RE teacher, but that was a very, very long time ago. And I find it tremendously essential, really, like you were saying, to have his up-to-date knowledge and all of his contacts and everything. And I would just like to pay tribute to Claire as well on this, because, you know, Claire is a full-time teacher, but she works really hard for us on top of that. So thank you, Claire. Okay, anything else before we bring David back in? It sounds like you're all very happy to have him continue to service.
We need to confirm, just stick our hands up and say.
Oh, okay, then let's do that. Then if you agree with that, let's stick our hands up. Thank you very much. As you can tell, I'm not, you know, I've been doing this a while, but in my church, we don't have many formal votes. So I kind of forget that people do sometimes, but that's fine. Right. Okie dokie. Where have we got to?
Do I need to get my coat?
Rather, you need to know how much the committee appreciates everything that you do, David, and we would love it if you would serve us again for the coming year.
Thank you. I'd be honoured to do so. I absolutely love working with you guys.
Oh, that's nice. Nice to know. Okie doke. So, equality and diversity, seems to have my name against it. I have nothing to say on that subject, apart from I agree with it. But Tony does.
Yes, I suggested at the last meeting that Pamela Voss, our new Equalities Officer, has anybody been in contact with her and used her advice at all? As I suggested, it might be a good idea.
I'm afraid not. No, I haven't. I don't know whether that was minuted actually last time. So
was it minuted that she might like to come along to one?
No, I was really referring that that we have a Claire, were you dealing with it last meeting? That it might be a good idea just for Claire to contact her or something on email, because obviously she's a very busy officer.
I don't remember that, but I'm happy to.
Might be a good idea because it just means we're all in sync.
Just remind us who she is again, Tony.
Yes, she's the West Berkshire Council's quality officer.
Okay.
Diversity officer.
One thing we did mention last time was about events, and so alongside the kind of training on religions, we spoke about hearing different voices and hearing different voices from faith. So we talked about like Black theology and feminism theology and stuff, and I think kind of being nosy on Twitter and stuff, I've seen Bolton Sacre put on like a mini conference of speakers and things, which sounds good. And I'm not expecting us to do anything like that, but even a half an hour in conversation with or hearing from someone, I think we're the people with the contacts, and like we all know people between us, or we all know people that we'd like to hear from. So sometimes it's quite nice just for us to hear from people that we've read about and things. So we kind of floated that idea last time, but we never really settled on anything with it. I'm happy to tie it in with the RE network because it's still subject knowledge, it's still pedagogy, and particularly at A level, you have to teach the diversity within Christianity, which is lovely. The new A level is lovely. If you ever get a chance to read the specification on any RS at A level, I highly recommend it. But yeah, I think that would help. Kind of.
I think it'd be a good idea just send her an email, really.
Yeah.
Happens out of it and report back to us at the next meeting. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anything else on that item? Okay, I'm going to press on because we're losing people. So item 12 is AOB. Has anybody got any? David?
Yes, just to say there was a report which you may have seen. It came out yesterday, I think, from NASACA, the National Association of Sacres, about funding. What I was going to suggest is I have a look at this and just prepare a very short document to circulate. So, I mean, you're very welcome to read it, but there's lots of figures and graphs and things. And so I thought if I just put a best of together and send round to you, that might be of help.
Wonderful, thank you. That would be great.
On the back of that, actually, I was like shaking my head vigorously at any other business and then remembered Ofsted have released a report on RE and all things RE. I don't know if that was mentioned earlier, but I'm happy to do what David's going to do for the NASACA report. I'm happy to do the kind of these are the headlines. And then David, maybe if we pull both of ours together into one document and then it's not...
I was going to talk to you about that because I'm actually in the process of wading through that and
compiling
a document for that as well. So it might be an idea we join. The Ofsted one is huge, but has real implications. So yeah, I mean, you're very welcome to read it, but personally, if you didn't have to, you wouldn't.
So if we work, we'll do that.
Get together on that one.
We'll double team it.
David Marsh as well.
Yeah. Did we have Park House, David? It was in the minutes somewhere, but
so we're
I saw it somewhere.
So we're going to come on to that in part 2 of the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, Chairman, I lost connection and I came back in just as we were talking about Pamela Voss. Because I can ask Janet, or I can contact her as we're within the council to save Claire a job on that. Would that be a slot for the next meeting for her to come along?
Yes. I'm only hesitating because I always feel there's a great big gap from now until our next meeting. It's 6 months ahead in November, and you just never know how full the agenda is going to get. But yes, by all means, invite her along, maybe for a shortish while.
Yeah, Joe, what I was just thinking of while you got cut off was Claire's dealing with this equality and diversity, and I just thought it might be useful what she's doing, that she could just tell Pamela what she's doing on an email, so they can discuss it with each other. Really, I know there's an officer part, but it's also what she's actively doing. I just thought it might be useful.
Maybe there's a both and there then.
Yeah, I think it'd be useful to do both, to be honest with you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other business? We need to set a date for our next meeting in November.
Is it in person?
Well, there's a question.
So it's okay.
Be careful what you wish for.
How things are going to pan out to be, so.
As we were going to go to the mosque.
Yeah,
we were.
Indeed. Offer is still open. So.
Oh, thank you.
That would be lovely.
Yeah.
So shall we, in faith, which is kind of relevant here, shall we say November the 2nd? Does that work for you all? At Newbury Mosque?
Yeah, or else if we can't, we'll go by Zoom.
That's good for me date-wise at the moment.
And it might just be worth, might it, noting the dates of future meetings.
Good idea.
Yeah, could we basically assume, Joe, that we do the same dates, just one day out for next year?
Yes, I need to check to see whether the future dates have been set for the forthcoming municipal year. They normally are set in advance. I'll have a look and send them round to everybody. There might be a November date already put in, but I'm sure that if we don't need a meeting room, if you're going on a visit somewhere, then it can be moved, I'm sure.
What we're aiming to do is to meet in a place of worship one time, in a school another time, and at the council the other time. So.
Okay.
Sadly, not an eatery.
Now there's an idea.
I haven't any other business that ties to meetings. If we are able to, can we go for like a cup of tea or something? I think we've all missed that social aspect. So can we propose that those of us who maybe want to go for dinner afterwards can go for dinner? And I'm happy to book somewhere and arrange it nearer to the time. But I just think it'd be nice to socialise in person.
That's a fab idea. Fantastic.
You do have these.
You could book McDonald's, Claire.
It sounds good to me. Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, what are you thinking of that for the November meeting?
No, I was only joking, Chairman.
Yes.
Other establishments are available.
Exactly. Yes. Right. So I think that concludes our meeting part one. Can we conclude that, Joe?
Yeah, Linda will just tell us when we've stopped live streaming. We took the vote earlier to move to part two. So once we've got the nod from Linda, you will be in